Amen. Praise the Lord. Sue, will you come and introduce us to Isaiah? This is a good, godly woman. Oh, speaking of good, godly women, I meant to mention our other leaders who aren't here today. Most of you know Marcia Kuiper, and she is traveling right now, and she's our head leader, our captain, and she's also a small group leader. And Barb Brokaw also is another small group leader who spent the summer studying with us. Did I miss anybody?
Oh, I don't know. I forget.
Okay. I think that's most of us. Okay, and this is Sue, and she's amazing, and she's going to guide us into this study.
Thanks. Did you want the headset? No, I'm good. I can do this, yeah. That's good. All right. Let's talk about an overview of Isaiah in 15 minutes. Stuart Black says you can teach about anything as long as you leave enough out. So we're gonna do that. I want to show you. You all got a gray book, and I will show you what we did. Some of the leaders this summer went down to the printing store and got it bound up like this. What's nice about it, I love this little guy. You open it up and you can just lay it flat. Otherwise, you're going to have to keep holding it open. On the left side, you'll see that this is the text. And then on the right, you have so much space for writing notes, or for the people that got highlighters, you can use those, or pencils or whatever. So there's so much space to write in here, and it's just a nice little book. And they even put a little plastic cover on the front for you if you want. So I just would advocate for this. Any of the Kinko's, FedEx, or Office Max, those kind of places do that. So that's kind of a nice thing. All right. Let's start off. We're just going to do a couple little hopscotches through the book. Talk about Isaiah the man. We're going to talk about Isaiah the book. We're going to talk about the context, maybe a little geography, and give you a little background. Our intention for this study is that we're going to have a lecture on the front end before you do the study to help you with pronouns. And are we talking about Babylon? Are we talking about the end of the world? We're going to identify some of those things with you and for you before you start doing your homework, so that'll kind of make it not so foggy for you. So that's our hope, that we can do that. So I can't hardly start. I just wanted to start, the next slide, Kelly, wanted to start off with the authenticity of Isaiah. And the Dead Sea Scrolls are kind of an interesting thing. You can look into it more, but in 1946, a Bedouin shepherd, or a group, or a young man, every story is different, stumbled on the shore of the Dead Sea. There's some caves, and they found a scroll. So go to the next one there, Kelly. A scroll. You can see how it's kind of ripped at the bottom, but this is this scroll that they found there was from 356 BC. So about 400 years after Isaiah would have written the original. So Isaiah wrote the original in 700 BC. They found this one about 400 years later, written by another person, obviously, but the context of it, the flow of it, there were a few mistakes with plurals or singulars or something like that, or a word dropped here and there. They thought it was copying error, but such a testament to the authenticity of Isaiah and how he preserves his word over centuries. I mean, so this is one of the oldest documents that we own on the planet right now, and this is it's 24 feet by 10 inches, has 54 columns of text, and so it's a pretty big document, and they have it in Jerusalem, I think, in a museum right now. So that's kind of a fun thing if you ever wanted to look into that some more, how they found it and what they did with it, and how it, they carried it with them for a few days, and that's why it tore a little bit and all sorts of stuff, kind of interesting. All right, so that's kind of a good vote for authenticity of God's word, I think. That's it. So let's talk then. We're going to talk about Isaiah the man. Let's talk about who he is. Who is this fellow? His name means God is our salvation. He was born the son of Amoz, not Amos, Amoz with a Z at the end, who was a brother to the king. So Isaiah's grandpa was a king. Or did I want to say uncle? Wait, his dad? Yeah, it's his uncle. His uncle is the king. So he grew up being in the palace with some regularity. He's used to royalty. He's unique. He's a unique prophet that way because the other prophets were poor. And Isaiah came from a wealthy family. God appeared to Isaiah, called him into service as a prophet into Judah, which is the southern half of the kingdom at that time. And Isaiah served as a prophet under 5 kings for 40 years, so he's one of the longest reigning prophets, and died a martyr by, according to the Talmud, and also alluded to in the book of Hebrews, that he died a martyr by being sawed in two with a wooden saw. So faithful right up until the end. And he really never had much of an audience. People didn't really have buy-in, and so God knew that when he called him. Also, I wanted to say in the back of your ring binder as an index, and there are a couple maps in there. It'll show you there, not yet, Kelly, in the back there's a list of a timeline, and there's some maps in there. If you're missing pages, you know, I just want to say, you're going to say that later. Okay, we're going to skip that. Okay, sorry. I thought I was coming after that, so I didn't. Okay, so we'll skip that. Anyway, in the back, there's some nice maps for everybody. Okay, let's go to the next one then. This is a map of the time that Isaiah served. On the top, it's a pink kingdom of Israel, and in the south is Judah, the green, and Isaiah was a prophet for Judah in the southern kingdom. The backdrop for that is 200 years before Isaiah was a prophet. You'll remember David and King David, and King David had a son, Solomon, who was very wealthy. You remember him. And Solomon had a son named Rehoboam, who was the rightful heir to the throne. But Jeroboam, a servant, rebelled against Solomon, took of the 12 tribes of Israel, took 10 of them to the north, that's the pink, and only 2 tribes to the south in the green, and that's Judah, and that's where Isaiah was a prophet after that split. So 200 years after that split then, 200 years prior to Isaiah being a prophet, the split occurred there. So he's going to, we'll talk about then about how Isaiah started being a prophet. God called Isaiah to be a prophet. We'll go to the next slide. This is crazy. Holly talked about it a little bit. This was Isaiah's introduction to God. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. He's one of the men in the Bible who interfaced with God face to face. It's interesting. I didn't have time. I'd like to have time, maybe take some time, to look at all the humans that interfaced with God somewhere. You know, Moses was in the cleft of the rock, and God passed by. And he revealed himself to, and spoke to Moses, but, you know, only on top of the mountain. They had a face-to-face, but interesting to see how they're different and how God shows himself to different people. And I thought this was an interesting way that God revealed himself to Isaiah, seeing as Isaiah had grown up in the palace, and he was familiar with the king. And so God presented himself as a king. To Jeremiah, God presented himself in a very low way. When he talked to Moses, Moses said, I can't speak, I can't teach, I don't know. And God lowered himself to meet with Moses and would say, what's that in your hand? Well, it's a staff. We'll throw it on the ground. And God introduces himself to different people and shows himself to different people in different ways. And this was just really aligned well in my mind. So here comes, in the year that King Uzziah died, the contrast, God shows up as king. I saw the Lord seated on a throne, high and exalted, and the train of his robe filled the temple, if you can imagine. That's what this whole study is. God just keeps getting bigger and bigger, like a rice cake. You just keep chewing it, it gets bigger and bigger, and you can't swallow it. Above him stand the seraphim, and having 6 wings. With the wings they covered their faces. Out of humility, they couldn't see how bright he was. With 2 they covered their feet. That was to show respect. And with 2 they were flying, and they were calling out to one another, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. All the earth is full of his glory." And at the sound of their voices, the doorposts and the thresholds shook, and the temple filled with smoke. And there's more, like Holly said, about the coal and the unclean lips, but this is a salvation message, and this is where Isaiah is called. And God said, "Who will go for me?" And Isaiah said, "Send me." That's the last part of that. Okay, let's look at the next page. Now talk about the themes of Isaiah. This is really broad in scope. This is nowhere everything that happens, or even a very good summary, honestly, but this is called the 5th gospel, because it is a gospel, especially when we come to chapters 52, 53, that you guys are all probably familiar with in the servant songs. This is about, one, at the beginning, the nature of God and how he relates to his people, and I want to highlight the word relate. Whenever I'm going to say this, and I might say it again, and other people will probably say it again, but it's so important in Isaiah. The context of it is as though, as a husband to a wife, it's relational. And if you take away the relational piece of this, it sounds harsh and hard. But in the same way that if I had a husband and we were married and I had his name, I lived in his house, I had my name on the will, but every night I went to another man's house and I shared my heart with him, my joys and my fears and my hardships. And God is saying, wait, you're my wife. You're my wife. What are you doing? You know, and it seems like when God says, woe to you, you know, this country, woe to you, that country, and it seems like a lot of this, but it's not that. He's a jealous man, and I say that he's a jealous God. He wants his wife. He wants his wife. He wants her heart. He wants her thoughts. So that has to always be the context of the wrath that he has, because it's holy wrath, and he's very upset that we don't have the intimacy that we could have. So that's really important backdrop, and we're going to keep repeating that. It's a covenant relationship. We're married by law, and we have a marriage now. It's not, we didn't get married and then do what we did before. We're married now so that we can have intimacy with God. The second theme, I think, another one, is the glory and the greatness of God, and I think we all alluded to that in our sharing this morning already. He just is not tiny in this book of Isaiah. He's just beautiful, just beautiful. Sometimes you just got to stop and take a breath, because it's just amazing. It's what we're going to have eternity for. Then we go to the sin of both Israel and Gentile nations and subsequent judgment. Again, a lot of harlotry talk, a lot of unfaithfulness talk. And so with all humility, you know, maybe we're going to get a chance to examine ourselves and say, how are we doing right now, God? And that's okay, and he'll be kind and sweet and gentle with us. The disbursement and regathering of Israel. There's a prophecy, prophetic things in this book about how Babylon comes and they're exiled to Babylon, but it does not happen in Isaiah. But there is a very near miss with Judah when Assyria comes, and you remember the story of Jonah and Nineveh. Nineveh was a capital of Assyria, and they were expanding their empire. And they had invaded Israel, the northern part I was telling you, and they were so close to Jerusalem. And then in a last-minute event, the king of Assyria gets recalled back to his country, and Jerusalem stood and did not fall. That's kind of an exciting part there. I think that's about in chapter 36. And then the first and second coming of Christ, that comes toward the end, predicted by name. in Isaiah is who will be the king during Babylonian captivity. Cyrus is named by name before he's even born. It's just kind of, how'd you know that, God? And then the end, which we all have room to learn about the coming great tribulation and glorious millennium. So that's good. When John Piper, one of my favorite guys, says, when every knee will bow and every tongue confess that he's Lord, how will we know who are the Christians if everybody's on their knees? And he said, they're the ones that are happy about it. Yeah. This book is just amazing. It's just amazing. Okay, next one. The book of Isaiah. Here's the amazing part. If you take your gray book, put it on your lap. I want you to put your finger on page 194. To the left of your hand is the first section, chapters 1 through 39. That's one section. The second section on the right is 40 to 66. What's interesting is on the left are 39 books in Isaiah. There are also 39 books in the Old Testament. On the right side of your hand are 27 books, the exact same number of books that are in the New Testament. Okay, next page. Now you'll notice the other thing that you notice there that I'll tell you about is that in the second half of Isaiah, to the right hand of the right side of your hand, in those 27 books, they're divided into 3 sections. So there's chapter 40 to 49, 50 to 59, and 59 to 66. And if you look at the middle of the second section, right in the middle of that second section is the gospel. Do the next slide. So right in the middle, so on the second half, dead center in the middle is Isaiah 52:13 to 53:12. That's crazy. I mean, it's God's intention that his son be glorified and that he's very intentionally placed there. Okay, next slide. And I'm just going to read it. We're going to just take a couple minutes. I'm going to read that, and then we're going to just wrap up. This is the peak, the pinnacle of this book, and it's why it's called the fifth gospel. Behold, my servant shall act wisely. He shall be high and lifted up, and shall be exalted. As many were as astonished at you, his appearance was so marred beyond human semblance, and his form beyond that of children of mankind, so shall he sprinkle many nations. Kings shall shut their mouths because of him, for that which has not been told them they see. And that which they have not heard they understand. For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by man, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and as one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. Next slide. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to slaughter, and like a sheep before its shears is silent, so he opened not his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off from the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people, and they made his grave with the wicked, and with a rich man in his death, although he had done no violence, and there was no deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him. He has put him to grief. When his soul makes an offering for guilt, he shall see his offspring. He shall prolong his days. The will of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. Out of the anguish of his soul he shall see and be satisfied. By his knowledge shall the righteous one, my servant, make many to be accounted righteous, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I divide him a portion with the many, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he has poured out his soul to death and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he bore the sin of many and makes intercession for the transgressors.
Okay, that was awesome, Sue. Thank you. You guys getting a little more excited about Isaiah? Okay, so I'm going to attempt to do this. I may need helpers at some point in time. But now we're going to pull out your binders, and I'm just going to kind of run you through everything that's in there, just a little formatting stuff. Hang on, let me do this real quick. All right. So everybody have their binder. First thing to say is that this is, I think some of you already know this, but this is not a study that we wrote. Most years not me, I say we, it's that loose we, meaning those wonderful 5 gals over there, write a study. This year we did not. This year we are doing this study basically. It's online and it's in this little book. It's associated with the Gospel Coalition. It's a series called Knowing the Bible, where they do literally every book of the Bible. This one is written by a man named Drew Hunter. And you can go to that very first page if you want to open up to that very first page in your binder. We kind of reference in there that everything that's in this, I mean, maybe not like the copyright page, but every important part of this is in there, okay? We didn't take anything away, but we wanted to add some things. So that's why we did it that way and didn't get you guys these books, okay? So it's all in there. But to stay true to copyright and to give them credit where their credit was due, there's different fonts, and it explains that in there. So the stuff that's in the real study is in one font, and then the things that we added are in different fonts, okay? Also, this was a 12-week study, and if you thought it was a fire hose, yeah, who laughed? Who was that? Thank you. Very appropriate, Arlene. Yes. 12 weeks to study Isaiah. Not happening. So we split it. We doubled it. What we did was split what they did in 1 week in 2. There's a pretty natural place to break it. So we broke it there, and we have a week A and a week B. You'll notice that as you go through, okay? And so in week A, you'll see on that front page there's a little heart in the middle of the page. You can read this, definitely read this intro letter, but in week A, we have a little heart. It's called a head-to-heart question. So trying to take some of the factual questions, and not all their questions are factual, but they kind of tend that way a little bit, and try to take what we're learning in our head and move it down to our heart, okay? Because that's always what we want to do with God's Word, is not just leave it as, oh, that's cool, I memorized this and I know that, but to let it transform us, right? So we're hoping those head-to-heart questions will do that, and you'll see the little heart and you'll see a different font. And then in the B weeks, you'll see on that front page there's like a little brick wall. In the B weeks, we did a thing that's kind of like a solidifying exercise, we call it. That's why we did the brick wall. Isn't that cute? So cute. And that is something that's just solidifying, like gelling what we're learning. Okay? Does that make sense? Just another way of like solidifying and making foundational what we're learning. So that's in the B weeks, and you'll see it in a different font, and you'll see it on top of the cute little brick wall. Okay, so that's our front page. And when I'm going through this, you say, I don't have that same page that Kelly is showing me, raise your hand, because we as humans put these together, so there could be oopses here and there, but we have sheets, and one of my wonderful fellow leaders will run up and grab the sheet you need and bring it to you, okay? So I'm going to try to do this. Wait, we can do it. There we go. Most of you can see that. So that's that front page. Definitely read that. It's a wonderful welcome letter from Marcia, and just kind of her heart, all of our hearts for what's going on. Next page is the schedule. That's got the whole year because we're anticipating you're going to be here all year with us to finish the book. Just a few things briefly about that. Obviously, on the left is the date. Discussion means kind of what you're doing with your morning. So like today is even listed on there. And look at that. You're in brunch. Good job. You're where you're supposed to be. The teaching was what Sue just did. That was the introduction. And oh, look, there's homework. Sorry. But there is homework. No, that's good news. It's good news. I'm sorry. I just have kids that are like, oh, homework. So homework, yay, homework is week 1. So in a minute, we'll flip to that and you'll see. So just so there's no confusion, the slot that says homework is like on 9/12, I'm supposed to go home and do week 1 homework. Okay, and then after that, it'll be listed as 2A and 2B, then the A's and B's start. Okay, but week 1 is just week 1. Does that make sense? Rock on. Okay, so then the next week, you'll come in, it'll be 9/19 at that point in time. It will be week 1, and we will discuss that in small groups. Okay, so you'll go to your small groups first, and then we will come in here. If it says teaching and there's something listed there, that means that we'll be in small groups, and then we'll come in here and someone will teach. Often it'll be Stephanie, but it'll be other people, Sue, Billy, etc. And then again, you'll have homework. Now this is where it gets interesting. The next week, 9/26, you see, we're talking about discussing week 2A, and then you go across and there's no teaching. And what that means, those weeks we will be in our small groups the whole time. Because we felt like if any book ever deserved to have a lot of time in small groups to discuss, this was the book, okay? So we can just tear this sucker apart and like go, I totally don't get this, can someone help me? You know, we're gonna work this out together, and so that's gonna give us more time to do that, okay? And then you'll have your homework, and then da-da-da-da-da you see as it goes, okay? And then there's Christmas break and a few other little special things in there, okay? So that's the schedule. Next page is this really coolio thing. Look at it, it's a fold out. Aren't we fancy? So fancy. This, if you don't recognize it, is from the Bible Project. Okay? And we would highly recommend that if you know how to do it or you have someone under the age of 30 who could help you, go to get on your computer, whatever age, I don't know, 50, I don't know. I don't know. Anyone under 100 can help you. Get to the Bible Project online. There are 2, because Isaiah, again, not a small book, kind of meaty. There are 2 Bible Project videos on Isaiah, and we would recommend go there and do that. And if you can do it this week, like go home today, tonight, something, you know, it's good. It's just kind of, like Sue did an overview, it's a different overview, and you could probably overview Isaiah 50,000 different ways. So it's just another way to wrap your brain around it. So we recommend that, but that's the final, you know, they draw the picture as they go along. This is the final picture, and it's just really cool. Okay, the next page, after you undo your fold back your fold out, is called Listening is Loving. Most of you that have been here before have read this before. If you haven't been with us before, this is something that we read at the beginning of small groups. Some people read it every week. Some people read it just once, whatever, and it's just reminders of how we can best all operate in a small group setting, okay, where perhaps, you know, vulnerable, intimate things will be shared, and, you know, we don't all know each other, and we might rub each other the wrong way. Well, how are we going to deal with all that stuff in a small group setting? This is just, you know, reminding us to listen to each other and to have hearts of grace and love towards each other, and we will read that at least once in our small groups. And now what you've all been waiting for, the next page, labeled page number 1, this is where your homework's going to start, okay? So this is what you're going to do for homework this week. And let's just, I know we say it every year, I'm just going to say it again. Don't wait till Sunday night. This book, you cannot wait till Monday night, maybe not even Sunday. Do something before Monday night. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there. I've said it. You've been warned. No, just kidding. But really, like, again, this is not a light book. This is, you're gonna probably need to spend some time. So just break it up. Go home on Tuesday night, do it, or set yourself, you know, put it on your calendar, because I know it's so easy to go all of a sudden like, it's Sunday and I haven't done Bible study. So put it on your calendar to do on Wednesday and Friday and whatever. Joanne has something. Yes. Yes. Yeah, and this week is more of the intro kind of stuff. But yes, when it comes to reading, it's not small chunks. It's multiple chapters that you're going to have to read. So yes, if nothing else, start the reading early. And yes, plug for the Bible app Reading Man while you're driving the car, while you're doing the dishes, whatever. Put something in on, or just have it play. Let your whole family hear it. Okay, so then week 1, and then we'll just see how it says week 2. If you keep going on page 5, there's the week 2A, so you can see that. Okay? So we don't need to go through the whole thing. You get that part. And then let me flip towards the back. Everybody go towards the back. And then there's this section called Appendix. Okay? Not the one in your right lower quadrant that some of you have already had taken out. Who's had their appendix taken out? Let's just see for fun. Not very many people. Cool, interesting, okay. So appendix is back there. It has some fun things in it. One of them is a timeline. The first one is a timeline. And does everybody have these pages so far? Like nobody's missing anything? Oh, so cool. Yeah, I think Leah Lewis, by the way, did like most of the assembling. Yeah, let's give a little round of applause. Woohoo! Yeah. Especially now that we got to the end and it's all going really well. Okay, so Isaiah timeline. There's a lot of, it's good if you can get a little bit of a sense of what's going on, like timeline, like actual historical facts of things that were going on as you're reading. There's times that it won't matter a ton, and then there's other times where you go, oh, it is important to know because this guy was the king and that guy came and, that kind of thing. So the timeline, if you get a little lost and you're like, wait a minute, why are they talking about that guy again? Go back to the timeline, okay? So that's super helpful. This is a map kind of like what Sue had up because there's a lot of places named, a lot of cities and things like that that don't necessarily exist anymore, and we wouldn't probably know where they are if they did exist. So just if you are a visual person, this might help you to get the idea. It's got the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom, and a lot of the cities that are mentioned in the book of Isaiah. Okay, and then next page. It was a trick. I was waiting to see if you were all going to speak up. That's right. None of you have that because it was an oops. So my lovely assistant here is going to pass these out. This is, like Sue said, there's discussion of the exile. There's 2 exiles, one of the northern kingdom, one of the southern. They are pertinent and discussed in different ways in the book of Isaiah. So this is a map of where those occurred. Like the northern kingdom went to this place, the southern kingdom went to this place. So it just kind of helps you get a little, again, kind of a visual on what was going on. And then I forgot to mention, which I'm so sorry I forgot to mention, is this lovely and wonderful cover, which I believe Mercedes designed. Mercedes Gallo, give it up for Mercedes. Yeah, and just this idea of take root downward and bear fruit upward. So these are little roots at the bottom. And so that's from the book of Isaiah, Isaiah 37:31. But that's kind of our hope for all of us, is that we will grow roots down as we learn from Isaiah, and then we will bear fruit. Any questions about format or this binder? Wow, y'all are smart. Oh, Phyllis has something. Yeah, so next week, we will start in small groups. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Should I just go ahead and say it? The small groups are not determined yet, okay? You will hear from your small group leader hopefully today or tomorrow. It could be a few more days, so don't panic. But if you haven't heard anything by, what would you say?
We'll try to do it by tomorrow evening.
Yeah, but what if they haven't heard by like Thursday? Reach out to somebody, call the office, yell at whoever you know, stand and scream. Yeah, let somebody know to let somebody know to let somebody know if you have not heard something by Thursday from your small group leader, okay? So, and then your small group leader will also tell you where you're going to meet, because next week at 9 a.m. promptly, or perhaps at 8:59 and 30 seconds, you're going to walk in the door of your small group room, okay? And you're going to have small group for about an hour and a half. There will be some probably getting to know each other's type stuff, and then talking about your homework, and then you will come over here for a teaching time. Okay? All right, does that rock? What was I just going to say about that? Oh, I was just going to say, for all of you who are dropping littles off, those folks should be over there at 8:45. So feel free to use those 15 minutes. Even if you just need to drop them and go potty by yourself, for once. But yeah, feel free to use that. Like, make in your head, my arrival time is 8:45. Because there should be, there could always be an oops week, but there should be people there at 8:45 to receive your wonderful, brilliant children, and then teach them and love on them while we're in here. So yeah, try to plan that because, there's always the dropped thing and the thing in the car and the diaper and the, whatever. So plan at 8:45 and then you can be at your group by 9. Okay? All right. Any other questions? That was a good one, Phyllis. Thank you. All right, you guys are amazing. I think there's more coming. I think there's a song. You can put your binders down and prepare to sing. Singing? We're singing?